County Board of Commissioners, May 26th at 9:40 a.m. We'll be doing this virtually, so first item on the agenda is to approve the proposed agenda with any additions or deletions, Jen?
I have no additions or deletions.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Was that Brian?
Yes.
Okay, motion by McBride.
Second.
Second by Pavlik. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Pilgrim?
Aye.
Story? And you would have to let me know, Jen, if you hear an aye or something from him.
That was an aye.
Okay. And aye. Motion carried. Update from Public Health and Human Services. Kathy, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay, good morning.
This is the data from the Minnesota Department of Health from yesterday. In Minnesota, there are 21,315 confirmed cases, 14,816 recovered, and 881 deaths. As of yesterday, there were 605 people hospitalized with 248 in ICU. That is the highest use of ICU beds that we have seen to date. The highest number of confirmed cases by age are in the 30 to 39 age group, with most of the confirmed cases living within the community. The second highest live in congregate living situations. Koochiching County remains at 6 confirmed cases, with a fair amount of testing going on. Minnesota is still a bit behind as far as testing goes in comparison to some of the other states, but we have made a pretty good jump in testing. As far as our county operations, we're continuing to operate as is. The emergency management team meets Monday through Friday, and we have other meetings set up with other community leaders throughout the week to keep everybody updated and make sure that everybody's needs are being met. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment, Kathy. Kevin here. That 30 to 39 age range, along with the next highest, which I believe is 20 to 29, I'm guessing are probably some people as a result of not wearing masks. I've been a fair amount myself, and I'm wearing a mask just about every place I go. So I got to remember, to have it with me. So, but I see a lot of people in those two age ranges not wearing masks. I see a lot of older ones too, but not near the amount I see in those two ranges.
That's correct. And within that age range, with those people having the most confirmed cases and then not wearing the face mask, they are to spread it to other people.
Yep. Exactly. So, that's one of the biggest and I've heard a couple comments, actually one coming from the hospital, that one of the doctors or doctor assistants or whatever, one of them out there stated to somebody that I know that the masks are overrated.
Well, the masks are meant to protect you from spreading the virus to others. They're not meant to protect you from getting the virus.
Right. Yep, I understand that. And I think that's probably where a lot of people get misconceptions, is they think it's protecting them.
have been administered locally or in our county?
We do not have that information. They're not required to disclose to us how many tests they do. So we don't have that information. We do know from talking to the different groups that they are, again, trying to come up with some more testing opportunities, like drive-through testing and whatnot, that they've been working on. So I think the number of tests will increase, but I don't have a number of how many tests have been administered.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So Kathy, if they aren't sharing with the county, are they sharing these numbers with the state? Because the state continues to put out a total count of tests that have been administered.
Yes. Well, there are the tests. The test results come from the labs as to how many tests that they have processed. That's the only. I don't know if they have a breakdown of where they come from either, but that is the number. The total approximate number of completed tests in Minnesota is 204,059, with 22,011 of those being done by MDH and 182,048 from external labs. So that's the only numbers that we have.
External labs, Kathy, would be like from the hospital and clinics and that, right?
No, the labs are just labs for processing. They don't process any of the tests at the hospitals or the clinics. There's Quest and Sanford and many other labs that receive the test to then process them.
Okay. The only places doing the testing here, though, are the hospital and the care and the clinic, right?
And Dr. Caperta also does them at Falls MD across from Hardy's. They are using some of the rapid tests now, so those are results within minutes, but there's a limited number of those, and those are usually reserved for healthcare workers so that they can determine whether they can be continue to work or whether they need to isolate.
Okay. Any other questions for Kathy? All right. Thank you. Discuss reopening county facilities to the public. Jenny? You there, Jen?
I'm sorry, I'm there and
Okay. Discuss reopening county facilities to the public.
yes, the commissioners wanted to have this on the agenda to discuss what our plans are for reopening to the public. I don't know what the commissioner thoughts are, but we are preparing for reopening. One of the things that we do in preparation for that is completing that preparedness plan that is going to be approved later on in the agenda. We still are a little bit, we don't have our hand sanitizing unit here yet to open to the public, but we are talking about taking appointments for certain things that we have not been able to provide. I'm kind of looking for commissioner thoughts about what are your thoughts about opening to the public and opening to board meetings and what that's going to look like. Right now, the capacity for our boardroom does not allow for us to meet in that boardroom. So we're going to, what are you thinking? What are the board's thoughts?
Do you have an idea, first of all, Jen, when hand sanitizer is going to arrive?
We have hand sanitizer. We just do not have that unit that's going to distribute that, and that is going to be here. Actually, it should be here today or tomorrow. So we're getting close to that. We've got signage to put up. I'm not sure how far Dean is along, and maybe he can chime in on this, on other supplies that we've ordered. We are going to ask all of our employees to take their temperature. The digital thermometers that I've ordered were back ordered, although I just received a notice today that they should be here in a couple days. So we're starting to get some of those things in place. As long as we're on the topic, I guess, part of that preparedness plan that we talked about, that's going to come up on the agenda to approve, there hasn't been, the state has added some recommendations to that plan, so that's going to be a plan that continues to evolve. But one of the things that we have not talked about is how we're going to have protections and protocols for receiving and engaging in payments if we are open to the public. Right now, we do not take any credit cards, and that appears to be the safest method. So that's going to be something that we'll have to discuss. How we're going to manage our occupancy. So if we do open to the public and have a board meeting that is open to the public, how are we going to manage that occupancy? We are having barriers put up right now, although some of those are not in place yet. They are in place for the auditor treasurer's office, for the recorder's office, and for land and forestry, although we do not have barriers set up yet in the assessor's office or the environmental services. And they do deal a lot with the public.
Hey, Jen, Mr. Chair, this is Brian.
Hey, go ahead.
I guess we're going to probably have to follow the state guidance, but I think it's important, the things you've just talked about, the planning, we need to have that on, in place, because people are starting to ask questions about, when's the county going to get open? It's a public building, we're starting to open up businesses, yet the county remains closed. We need to have a plan, and we need to have answers for people. And then also the issue that I had talked to you about before was, and I know Matt's here, we need to have a plan to start getting the transfer station hours increased, because that is continuing to be a real heartache with the public. And we do need to continue to protect our employees, but we need to service the public too. So.
Other comments from the board?
Hi, Mr. Chair, Jason here. Well, I guess I would like to see us try to open on a limited basis, if possible. But I'd also like to see all the safety protocols in place before we do that, obviously. And then just maybe have continual input, improvement from staff, weekly or daily, or email or whatever. Just kind of keep things progressing, just to try to keep everybody as safe as we can.
Mr. Chair. See, Jen, and I think Commissioner Ady attends, Commissioner Pavlik, and the emergency management group. Have you been having discussions at all on moving forward, what our plan is going to be? Because we need to either have it at that level or management committee. If we get the board all sitting down, and then it gets wheeling on a TV screen. But I think you guys can really start moving that forward.
I don't think we've really talked about getting things open. Probably everything else, but so. I think the state, as far as reopening, what was it, last week or a week before that they started? In a haphazard way, so
started in May, and now the stay safe order is through June 1st, I believe. Starting June 1st, restaurants are now going to be able to serve in limited capacity. I believe it's 25% capacity, and only outside dining is going to be allowed.
Okay, well, that's how it is right now, right?
Not yet. That will start on June 1st.
Okay.
Right. I can understand that the public is concerned, that we're closed to the public, although as a reminder to the county board that all county services are being provided at this time. So if there's calls from constituents that say that they would like to be open to the public, I guess the question would be, what do you need? What can we help you with? And the recorder's office has been very good about working with folks on marriage certificates, meeting them in the parking lot, phone calls, things like that.
Yeah.
And the only service that's not being provided right now are the passports. And Lindsay's plan for that is to do appointment only for those. Jackie is also working on some software that I had a conference call with the other county administrators last week. We're a little bit unique because we do not have a license bureau here. Most other counties have a license bureau, and that has been most of their need to open to the public by appointments, and those are for motor registration purposes.
And I see where our local license bureau is meeting with people by appointments also.
Right.
Mr. Chair, Jason. I was just wondering what the court system is doing, if they're ramping up their cases a little bit, or if they're kind of on a limited schedule.
My understanding, and Jeff, I don't know if Jeff's still on here or not. Yes, he is. They're very, very limited. I have not gotten an update yet on what their plan is, but they're still doing only super high need cases. Jeff?
Would you like to respond to that, Jeff? Please? Are you there, Jeff?
He may have stepped out, but
Yeah.
The courts do update us what their plans are, and right now, I have not received anything that they plan to increase that, although I am expecting some increases as of possibly maybe June 1st, but I don't have that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Can I speak for a minute? This is Patty Bolstead. I'm on the line as well for court administration.
Okay, go ahead.
Just to speak to that, we have also a COVID preparedness plan in place that we are trying to follow, that Justice Gilday had set out for us, and the 9th District itself with the Chief Judge is saying that until we have certain things in place, we're only doing essential cases. And right now, Judge LeDuc is appearing from home by Zoom to do virtual hearings for any and all essential cases right now. And as far as in-person court hearings, until we have our, we need to do a lot of different things before they're going to allow us to open up, because of so many people that would come in for a court case. They're only going to allow 10 people in the courtroom at a time, 5 hearings per hour, and we're going to obviously have to do the social distancing, so it's going to be extremely hard to manage. So until we have everything in place for everybody's safety, June 1st was the ideal date, but we will no way be prepared for that. So we're probably looking at in-person cases being pushed out to possibly July.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Brian.
Well, I'm hearing that. I'm going to kind of talk to Jenny about this issue, and if Tom West is, I'd like to have him comment later, but, it really looks like it was, fairly quick and fairly easy to shut down, but it's going to be really a bugger to try to start back up. This is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But I know one of the complaints that people were having, and Tom mentioned it before, was people have to pay their taxes, and I understand that people, I commented on this last week, that they like to be face to face. And one person said he wanted to pay cash, and he was not going to put cash in that drop box there. So, and I understand, if you got a couple $1,000s in cash, you're not comfortable about putting it in the box and walking away. So, I don't know if Tom is online or not.
Yeah, I don't see him online, but doesn't mean he's not there. Any other questions? Or discussion? Okay. We'll move forward, I guess. Approve memorandum of understanding for COVID-19 separation.
That is mine, and that is another memorandum of understanding with a local hotel regarding if we need rooms for isolation or quarantine.
How many hotels do we have doing that now, Kathy?
I think this is the third one.
Okay. Do we have anyone that
Move the MOU.
for closing?
We do not have anybody receiving that service right now.
Okay. Did you make a motion, Brian?
Move to on the MOU.
Okay, I've got a motion by McBride. Do I have a second?
Go second.
Got a motion by Scoy. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Sobel?
Aye.
Scoy? Aye. And myself. All right, thank you. Approved minutes, regular meeting, 5:19.
Move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Shobram,
Second.
second by Pavlik. Discussion. Hearing none, Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Shobram.
Aye.
Roy.
Aye.
And 80 is an aye. Financial business.
Mr. Chair, I will move on A, B, and C, courthouse, highway, and public health and human services.
Okay, I've got a motion by Commissioner Shobram. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Wade. Second by Pavlik. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Pavlik.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Shobram.
Aye.
Roy.
Aye.
And 80 is an aye. Review first quarter budget to actual financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you've all received a copy of the first quarter budget report. The first quarter, there's not a lot of activity and a lot, as property taxes have not yet been collected. So I don't have a lot of detailed information to go over with you. It's just sort of a way that keeps me on track and making sure that, we're posting all of the things to the right accounts. But I do want to mention that out-of-home placement costs are up considerably, and that is due to COVID-19 because the AJs, and maybe Kathy, if she's still on, I know she's got a 10 o'clock meeting that she usually goes to. The AJC was not able to take some juveniles, and so they're in a very high-cost placement right now. For an example, and I have a graph, but if sometimes my computer shuts down, and I don't want to mess with this meeting, the logistics of this meeting. But anyways, we're up about, had about $30,000 more for out-of-home placement costs in the month of April than we did compared to 2019, and we have, and it's about the same. So we've had about $60,000 more of costs in out-of-home placements compared to last year, just in the months of April and May. So that is a concern. Those costs are those are services that are mandated. We do budget for those services, but we, regardless of what we budget, the amount that is paid has to be paid because we have to provide those services. So that's a little bit worrisome. The other, on a positive note, I'm looking at our general revenue fund balance. Our general revenue fund balance at the end of March was $4.6 million compared to last year at the end of March. We were at 3.8, and that the reason for that is because we had revenues that were higher than expenditures in 2019. The only other costs that I want to go through with you is in terms of hard costs for COVID-19. We are tracking those costs carefully. Right now, our hard costs, those are things, supplies that we've ordered, does not include all of the time that the staff is spending on COVID-19 items. I know all of the department directors, especially over in Public Health and Human Services, they've got lots and lots of hours logged for that, where we've got the county board is meeting more often. Those costs have not been included. But we've got hard costs of about $15,000 right now, and that's just starting. We're just starting to see some of those things as supplies are being ordered in preparation for reopening. So, in the county administrator meeting that I had last week, a lot of counties are doing hiring freezes. They're doing. They're stopping all capital expenditures. I don't think we're in that position yet, but it's something that we're going to need to watch really carefully, and we may have to make some decisions about how we're spending. The only other line item that I did want to talk about in terms of fund balance is we do have our capital improvement project. That is the Island View Sewer Project. As of the end of March, we were negative $343,000. That does not include about $1 million of retainage that's out, and then there's going to be some additional work for completion. So that's been on my radar as well. That's something that we're going to have to take a look at and probably hold some public hearings about how that's going to be funded. So we've got some challenges ahead of us. Any questions?
Do you know if some of those, Kathy's still on the line, maybe she might know too, some of those out-of-home placement costs that are associated with COVID-19, you know, if some of those will be or could be reimbursed through FEMA?
Kathy and I talked about that this morning, and Betsy, in the process of getting our FEMA account set up, and so that we can start submitting expenses. And most definitely, we feel that may be eligible, but I have not yet seen anything to specifically state what are eligible expenses and what are not eligible expenses. So I don't know that for sure, but it's definitely been discussed, and if it's possible, we'll submit all of those include those in the claim.
All right. Any other hidden things that may be reimbursed through FEMA?
You know, I'm waiting to see about additional staff hours.
Yeah. Hard to see on.
Yeah.
Well, that's a different game.
Yeah, we also have the additional 80 hours of sick leave that we were actually it's a two weeks of sick leave that we were mandated to provide, and that's a cost that we're not sure of as well.
Yeah. Any other questions? All right, thanks, Kathy. Approved COVID-19 preparedness plan.
Mr. Chair, this is the plan that I referenced earlier. Since I have prepared this plan with the input from all of the department directors, the state has come out with additional recommendations, and I think I already reviewed those, but we're going to have more conversations with department directors about how we can minimize transactions, what protections and protocols we are in place for receiving and exchanging payments, additional protections and protocols for managing occupancy, additional protections to limit face-to-face interactions, and additional protections and protocols for distancing and barriers. So I'm going to just give you an overview of this plan, but when we do approve this plan, I would link it to the board motion to approve the plan with, it's going to be an evolving plan. It's going to be updated on an ongoing basis, so I'm going to ask you to approve it and approve it on an ongoing basis. So I think it's important to spend a little bit of time on this plan because it's very important. The plan that came from the state is they are asked that we get input from our employees about what is safe, and or if they have any concerns. We have now placed a form that can be printed off and anonymously submitted if employees have concerns. But prior to that, we have also asked employees, what are your concerns? So some of those concerns, they've had requests for shields. They've asked for sufficient supplies of sanitation products and personal protection equipment. They've asked for compensation for time off. They were concerned about mail and delivery safety. The other thing that they really are strongly recommending that when we do open to the public, that visitors wear masks while in county facilities. Initially, this plan had the requirement that anyone entering the county facility wear a mask. There was discussion during the department director meeting that Attorney McCloskey was not sure that we could do that. But we are very strongly going to encourage visitors to wear masks, and if Attorney McCloskey finds that we can mandate that, I think that is something that will be discussed. We're going to have to do continuous cleaning of shared surfaces in the county when we're open to the public, and continuous cleaning means at least 3 times a day. The executive order does say if you're able to work from home, that's where you should stay. So at this point, if employees that are working from home are going to stay working from home. The other part of the plan talks about how we're going to prepare. And that includes screening employees before they enter the county facilities. There's a self-assessment test that we're going to ask them to take. We're also going to ask them to take their temperature. We have digital thermometers on order that I expect this week. In addition, we have several infrared thermometers that can be shared amongst departments. If employees are feeling ill, we want them to stay home. They do not require a doctor's note if they're absent for more than 5 days. We do not want anyone that's sick to come to work. Symptoms, if an employee becomes ill while at the workplace, there's a procedure for that. There's also a procedure to notify other employees of a confirmed case. Everything, there are data practice regulations, so we would never name an individual the name of the employee who either has a suspected case or a positive test case. But those people will need to be isolated, and if they have a positive test, that they'll have to, we will have to disinfect that the area in which they work in, and in any areas that they may have visited within the last few days. And we are going to follow CDC guidelines for that, and those are very extensive. I have included a copy of those guidelines with the policy, because I think it's important to know that for the staff to know what the plans are. We also talked about returning to work after a positive or suspected exposure to COVID-19. We're going to follow CDC guidelines in those cases. We are not going to require a note from their doctor or a negative test. They follow the isolation guidelines. Isolation maintained for at least 10 days after illness onset and at least 3 days after recovery. So those procedures have been put in place. Obviously, we're going to ask employees to wash their hands. We're going to ask them to cover their cough or sneeze. We're going to mandate that there's social distancing. For those departments that if 6 feet of distance between employees cannot be maintained, there will be barriers. Most of the departments are in pretty good shape, although the recorder's office is of concern because there are not 6 feet of distance between those spaces. We're also going to it also talks about how we're going to clean the county facilities and how we're going to communicate this plan with the employees and how we're going to train our staff. Once this plan is approved, all of the department directors are going to need to review this plan with their staff and make sure that they understand what the expectations are. Included in the plan is the visitor health screening checklist, and the interim COVID-19 program for employees, which is part of this plan. So this is a plan specifically for the employees. I don't know if Janelle's on or not. Janelle put this together again from a data that the state has requested, but we need to make sure our staff understands what benefits are available to them and what we're going to do and what our plans are. And then finally, the last attachment is how we're going to clean and disinfect after a person is suspected or confirmed to have COVID-19 after they've been in the facility. And that is a very extensive list. So,
I'm here if anyone has questions about the employee program.
Okay. Actually, Janelle, I actually put that on a separate agenda item, so to approve that plan separately, although it's sort of part of the preparedness plan, but I'd like to see a board motion to approve this preparedness plan with as an ongoing moving document that will continue to be updated as we get further guidance from the state.
Hey, which is the board?
I move, so
I got a motion by Tavlik. Do I have a second?
second.
Was that the board?
A lot of work went into that. Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Was that Wayne being a second?
That was.
Okay. Then, quick question. Maybe a couple of quick questions. First of all, when we do decide to reopen and we mandate that anyone entering the courthouse wear a mask, can we require, if they do not want to wear a mask, can we require that they have a note from their doctor that they don't have to wear a mask?
Mr. Chair, at this time, we are not requiring the public in this document to wear a mask. It was advised by our county attorney that we may not have the authority to do that, but we are strongly encouraging them to wear a mask.
Okay.
And that's for the safety of our staff and for them as well. So we're not requiring that in this policy.
Okay. Another question I have is ODC coming in for cleaning. Are they coming in for cleaning now when we have the COVID-19 thing going on, or?
Mr. Chair, that's a good question. And I've met with Dean, and he is meeting with the ODC because there are certain things that they need to be trained on before they can come back. We will require that they wear masks, but they do need to be trained on certain cleaning procedures, and we want to make sure that they have the capability of doing that.
Yep, that was my concern. So, all right, thank you. Any other questions for Jen or Janelle?
Yes. I have a question.
Go ahead, Wayne.
If someone comes in with a mask, how can you identify who they are? Should they remove their mask outside so you can see their face? Or I have a little bit of a security question on that one.
Commissioner Skoy, I think that I don't know. I guess that's a question that we haven't really thought about. So I guess I don't know.
I would think, first of all, it would be dependent on what service it is they're coming in for.
Right.
There's a lot of things you don't really, if they're coming in for a garbage ticket or, or to, pay property tax, it's, how much do you need
Should they have an ID with them?
What's that?
I said, could they produce an identification ID?
Could be a requirement.
But then if you can't see their face, it's a picture ID. I guess I'm just being the devil's advocate on this one. That's a question I've had on, when they're coming in, and I'm sure in the courthouse they're going to have issues. I don't foresee it as a problem, but I guess it, maybe some of the staff would want to know who they're dealing with. I don't know.
Can I just make one quick comment on this topic? I've been trying to stay quiet, but masks are very popular right now, but there are several people in the community that have worn masks for a long period of time just because they have certain conditions, and they have entered our buildings, and it's never been an issue. So I appreciate Commissioner Skoy's concern, but I don't see it as a big public safety risk. I think that's a personal choice of someone wants to wear a mask, and I don't believe that we have the authority to either tell people they must wear one or tell people they must take one off prior to entering our building.
Okay, I was being a little bit more of the devil's advocate in that question than real concern, I guess.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and for the sheriff, if you walked into a bank, it might be a little different.
Yeah, just the one comment is we're talking about a cloth-based mask, surgical mask. We're not talking about a mask that conceals their entire identity. So I understand Commissioner Skoye's position on this and playing the devil's advocate role, but I don't see it being a big concern that people are walking around in our building with surgical masks.
Yeah. I agree.
Okay, thank you, Ben.
Any other questions? All right, so I guess I got the motion in the second. So do a roll call vote. Fabric?
Yes.
McBride?
Aye.
Doble?
Aye.
Goy?
Bye.
And 80 is an aye. Approve interim COVID-19 program for employees.
Janelle, would you like to take this, being that you're the one that drafted this, and thank you for doing that?
Yes, I sure can. Good morning. I had, on Penny's request, I had drafted this interim policy that really reflects the communication that we've sent to staff since everything has kind of been established and we've been receiving communications. A lot of it talks about the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which discusses the 2 weeks of paid sick leave plus the additional 10 weeks of extended FMLA for individuals that more so or less from when it first originally happened with folks being able to care for their children if they were out of school due to the COVID-19 or place of care. So it's going to go through how you are eligible, what criteria you meet in order to become eligible for these benefits. It also talks about, in the beginning of this, when we decided, or the board decided to advance sick leave up to 80 hours worth to full-time employees and kind of based off a work schedule for the part-time employees in the event that they do not have any sick leave to be able to take care of any COVID-related issues. We also defined kind of the schedule changes and working remotely from home and kind of what that is going to look like and what those expectations are. We also talk about what an employee should do if they display any contagious symptoms. If employees are concerned maybe a coworker has been exposed, we created an anonymous employee question or suggestion or concern form pertaining to COVID-related tasks. So if an employee wants to report a situation, but they want to remain anonymous, we have made that available to them as well. And then, as Jenny discussed earlier, we are in no position where we are going to notify employees of the individual with confirmed cases of COVID, but, we would have to notify staff if there was a confirmed case. And then, of course, we just also discussed with work comp, to define that if the COVID-19, they can file for work comp if they believe they were in an exposure due to their work environment.
One question for Janelle.
Yeah.
Janelle, if as far as HIPAA and employees protections, but with contract tracing, how do we keep the identity of the employee off the record?
Well, and Brian, that's a great question because we live in a small community where we tend to know everything about everybody. But I think, especially in public health, they're in human services, they're very well informed of HIPAA practices. Obviously, it would just be, I think the policy says they have to report it to a supervisor, and I mean, that information is going to be confidential. I would treat it the same way if it was a regular FMLA case, if they had knee surgery, work comp. It's nothing we can disclose. So it's really, there is that difficulty with living in a small community where people tend to have the advantage of figuring things out, but it would not be from any conversations from us at the county.
So as far as contact tracing, it would just be kind of generic that you'd go to an employee and say you possibly could have been exposed on such a date or whatever, and then we go from there?
Yep. Mr. Chair, if I may also add to that, Mr. McBride's comment, the Public Health and Human Services does not do the contact tracing right now. That is all done through at the state level. I would imagine if they get overwhelmed, they may ask for Public Health and Human Services to assist. But right now, that is all done at the state level, and we do not do that locally.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying. Any other questions regarding the interim policy for staff?
I would move, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I've got a motion by McBride,
Second, Mr. Chair.
second by Shobrom. Any discussion? Hearing none, Fabric.
Aye.
McBride.
Yes.
Shobrom.
Aye.
Goy. Aye. And I'm an aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Jill. Approve revised June meeting schedule.
I would move the revisions, Mr. Chair. Continued meeting as needed.
Motion by McBride.
And that would be a decision by the board chair to add those dates. You can make the decision if all of a sudden we don't need it, but right now we meet every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion by McBride.
Second.
Second by Fabric. Discussion. Hearing none, Fabric.
Aye.
McBride.
Aye.
Shobrom.
Aye.
Goy.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you. Let's see. Approved public hearing on June 9th, 10 a.m. for off-sale liquor license application. And that's for the Boondock Bar and Grill. I know that's the Woodland.
Move, Mr. Chair, with the question after.
Motion by McBride.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Second by Shobrom. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
So, Jen, now we have to have a public meeting for a new license, but as long as it's renewal, we can just do that at the board?
Mr. Chair, it appears that if we issue an off-sale intoxicating liquor license, that it triggers a public hearing. And that's a new license. And so what happened is the Woodland let theirs expire, and so this is a brand new license.
Oh, okay, so that's just for the new license, but we can do renewals without a public meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All in favor, Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Shobrom?
Aye.
Goy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right. Adopt resolution accepting airport FAA CARES Act grant.
I'll move, Mr. Chair.
Motion by Pavlik.
I have a second.
Second by McBride. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor, Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Noble?
Okay.
Goy?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Historical Society.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I believe that Ashley Levine, the Executive Director for the Koochiching Historical Society, is on at the meeting, and she is requesting, actually not she, but the Historical Society is requesting $7,500 of funding to complete the final phase of a new roof installation. We did meet a management committee and did discuss this request, and one of the things that management committee had asked me to do was to go back to Ashley and ask her about, have you explored any other resources? Have you looked at some funding have you asked the city for that funding? I know they're part of that Bronco museum. And also if they have a request to the KCDA. They in fact did have a request in for the KCDA on a different project that they had been working on for a very long time. It was for a digital scanner that they have also received outside funding for. It seems that project was already in place with KCDA, and they did request funding from the city, and the city denied their request. The only other thing that I can add is that when they did come to budget committee, or when they did submit their budget request, it was for an amount that was higher than what we approved. We approved the budget amount at the same level as last year, but we did say that if they had a special project to come back to the board for funding, for that funding request. We do have some funds available in administration contingency that could be used for this request. But Ashley, I'll let you go ahead.
Hello. So basically we're just looking for some assistance to finish our last part of our roofing project. Over the past several years, we've been re-roofing the entire museum, and we've spent over $50,000 to do that. This is the last part of that project, and so we're just looking for a little bit of help to get it done. So we're coming back to you to see if we can use some of that special project funding. We also have to fix our furnace chimney, and that's going to be a little over $1,200. So we're already paying to fix that. So we have to replace a bunch of the piping and everything else. So that's another part of the project, not that part of the roof, but something that we're already taking care of on our own.
Actually, this is Commissioner Ady. Betty mentioned, and you had in your request also that you had requested from the city some funds. Had they just not acted on it yet, or did they not have it on their agenda, or?
No, we met with the city last week, and they denied our request.
Okay.
They said they did not have the funds available at this time.
Okay.
Well, Chairman Ady, that is very unfortunate, but to that point, and by the way, I see she's got a museum piece sitting right next to her in this photo.
I thought I was going to ask her what that was, so.
Well, anyway, with that, it's got to be done. I'll gladly move.
Got a motion by Commissioner Pavlik.
I will second, Mr. Chair.
Got a second by Commissioner Schobel. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair, one quick one.
Go ahead.
Ashley did a great job, and by keeping the other guy silent, too, you may get this request through.
That's unusual, isn't it?
Thanks, guys.
Yes, thanks.
All right. I'll bring us back to the board. Pavlik.
Aye.
Brian.
Aye.
Schobel.
Aye.
Boy.
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, Ashley.
Yes, thank you.
We'll see you, Ed.
Bye-bye.
Okay, let's see. Let's service representative. Mark, are you on?
I am. And so what I'd like to first point out is that I'm talking to you through our state-of-the-art video conferencing equipment that was funded through KTI grant, Koochiching Technological Initiatives, and also partly through the state VSO grant, our Operations Enhancement Grant. So thank you, KTI, and thank you, Jackie Nagel, for helping us negotiate that process and be successful. So there is some information on the RBA I put forward. We had a very significant jump in the level of funding that was coming through the Federal Veterans Administration to the county in 2019. We went up by over $1.5 million. That's the biggest jump since 2007. I would also point out that looking at the numbers, it appears that jump in 2007 was actually attributed to the way the VA did the accounting on their distribution report. So they picked up a bunch of other areas that they hadn't been previously accounting for or reporting in 2007. So that was roughly about a $1.8 million jump back then. Up until this point, of course, we always have been making, the offices are making positive progress in the hundreds of thousands of dollar range. Like I said, this is the biggest jump we've had. It's, certainly I wasn't expecting a jump that big. I would attribute that to the way that this office has been resourced. We were able to, basically make some management changes that allowed us to eliminate a very significant backlog. So I believe a lot of those grants, and that's what we refer to a veteran puts in they receive a grant from the federal government based on that claim. Anyways, those grants were essentially, I believe, in the pipeline, and we were able to, really process them and get them through, and that's what resulted in such a significant increase in the money coming into the county. And, as far as budget numbers, and it's, and I believe it's conservative to say, with the return on investment, of course, we had a significant jump in our budget to about $85,000, so we're right at about the $238,000 mark. And, however, if we look at those numbers, just, once again, conservatively, that $1.5 million represents about a 600% return on investment. If we look at the whole $11 million plus, it's about a 4,700% return on investment. So, having said that, the other thing that I would say that concerns me, on the other hand, about the report is our number of veterans that they're recognizing in the area. Koochiching County dropped from 1,100 to 1,060. I believe is the number. Yes, 1,060. I would just comment on that, saying, number one, those numbers aren't accounted for on like a head count through the census. They're basically arrived at through veterans in the county that are accessing some type of VA service, and then they say, and actuarial tables. Well, the actuarial table thing to me is, I think, the only people that really understand that are statisticians that work for life insurance companies. So I really can't talk too much about that. However, I would say, I agree with Candace. I think that number is low for the county. Rural counties definitely, are really overrepresented nationwide in regards to the numbers that I've served. So once again, but our strategy has been, and we, tools equipped up for outreach. However, now with the COVID-19, the state, the county fair has been canceled, the Little Fort fair has been canceled, and of course we're not going to get into any assisted living or nursing homes either to, use our mobile equipment to help those vets out. So, our strategy now is, of course, is we're going to increase our radio and print presence and continue to reach out to veterans. And quite honestly, in our community, the majority of the veterans that come in right now that have never been here before say, a family member was pressuring them to come in, or a friend of theirs was saying, hey, you need to get down to the VSO office and see what's available to you. And I'd say that's, we need to continue 100% to promote that, because that is, the number one way we hear from folks. So, anyway, so that's kind of the nutshell. I would be more than happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mark, this is Kevin. First and foremost, I'd like to say good job, and it's good to see the benefits in that for the veterans increase substantially, and get some benefits that they deserve, and good to see. And second of all, I'd just like to say, it was, because of everything going on, the COVID stuff, and it was too bad that they didn't have the memorial services out at the cemetery, and no flags or anything out there. So it was tough to see. I was out there over the weekend and just missed all that stuff. So.
Well, as one of your clients in a roundabout way, I can't express gratitude on behalf of the veterans that you've been serving. You're doing a wonderful job, much as your immediate predecessor. So thank you on behalf of the veterans of this county.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
And of course, I also, point out that it's a team effort, and of course, Carissa and Shauna have the institutional knowledge, which has really led to, number one, a smooth transition, and we were able to really, like I said, tapping that backlog and getting the pipeline open was the biggest challenge for us all, and they've done wonderful work.
Absolutely, credit to them too.
Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. Chair?
Yep.
Mark, just refresh my memory real quick. How are you doing interviews at this time? Are you doing them by video or by phone or?
Okay, so good question. We're continuing to process claims. We're continuing to get veterans their benefits, and we're doing that basically over the phone. We do phone appointments. We're using the mail to mail forms back and forth, and of course, a lot of our workload has diminished significantly, and just due to that fact that some folks may not be comfortable with that methodology. However, on the upside, we're continuing to march forward, and we are definitely looking forward to and preparing to open up again to face-to-face meetings. Of course, our strategy one of the strategies in order to protect us and the veterans is to limit our traffic just by appointment only once we open up again. So then we don't have folks gathering in the lobby area and whatnot, and there will should be I don't see any I don't see any really downside to that at this point. We do have 2 drop boxes for folks to drop off their travel documents, things like that, where they wouldn't have to come into the office. And we also moved the flag collection box from the courthouse to our right outside our door here on the south entrance of the Wells Fargo building. So then that would be fewer folks that actually would need to go to the courthouse also.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mark? All right, thank you, Mark.
Sure, thank you.
All right. Sheriff business. Food hazard mitigation plan amendment. Harold, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. In fact, I'm going to, I believe Willie's on the line still. I think he's calling user 14. He is going to talk about this.
Okay.
I'm here.
Well,
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I can just tell you briefly what's going on. This is an amendment to 4.4.7, the soil erosion / landslide area in our Koochiching County multi-hazard mitigation plan.
And specifically, this amendment pertains to the area along the river behind Green Lake Medical Center. So we called it the River Rhine Bluff Erosion Amendment. And what this project is going to do is construct, basically a long-term solution to restabilize the bank, the riverbank behind the hospital. The hospital is considered critical infrastructure for our county. So with that, I visited with Cal Turbin, the maintenance director there at Rhine Lake Medical Center last fall, and advised him that we felt that it would this project could fall underneath our hazardous mitigation plan. So we took pictures and we sent it to HSEM, Homeland Security Emergency Management, and they agreed that this is something that could possibly be funded federally through FEMA. Because our multi-hazard mitigation plan is approved by HSEM and FEMA, we qualify for projects like this through the mitigation program. So we drafted this erosion amendment, and we sent it to Homeland Security Emergency Management. They approved it, and then sent it on to FEMA. And FEMA approved the amendment. So then it comes back to us, to both the city, because the project falls within the city limits of International Falls. And then it ultimately has to be approved by the county board, the amendment that's in front of you. And once you approve it, then we will send it back to Rhine Lake Medical Center, and then it'll go off to FEMA for final approval. And if it is approved by FEMA at that point, then 75% of the total cost for reconstruction and restabilization of the bank will be possibly funded by FEMA.
Willie,
Yes, sir.
have you had any talk or conversations with Soil and Water Board?
No, I have not.
Okay, because a lot of erosion projects and that sometimes are covered at least partially anyhow by dollars that they're able to receive.
Okay. And I can get in touch with them and discuss the amendment, with them.
Yeah, I can give you a call when we're done and give you a couple of contact numbers if you want.
That would be fine.
Okay, what's your phone number, Willie?
It's 218-341-0062.
Okay, I'll call you when we get done and give you a couple of numbers. So, all right.
Okay, thank you, sir. Are
Anybody
there
else have any
questions?
questions for Willie?
I'll move on the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I've got a motion by Showboom. There's a second.
Second.
Who is that?
Ryan.
Oh, okay. That sounded like Jason again. I thought, well, wait a minute.
Well, that's been done before.
Yeah, I know. Okay, any further discussion?
One question for Willie.
Yep.
Well, we don't have any idea what kind of a dollar figure we're talking.
No, I don't. I know that there's been some construction already that they had done, and a lot of it because of the weather-related conditions. That a lot of what they have done has eroded already. So, and I don't have any dollar figure on that, not yet.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, I've looked at that bank several times, and it's definitely a huge issue there. It's continual, and it really needs some some deep work, I think, to get it stabilized. So really appreciate you working on that, Willie. It looks good, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, we're hoping so. So far, it was passed in record time as far as the amendment being sufficient to add to our already existing mitigation plan, but it was approved in record time by FEMA. So I'm hoping that's some indication that this can move forward quickly.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Wayne.
I agree with you, Kevin, that soil and water should be approached on this because they have additional funds, and that is right up their alley on erosion work.
Yep. Okay, any other questions or comments? All right. Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Dobum?
Aye.
Troy?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, thank you, Willie. Perrin, you have
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Highway business. Dave, are you there?
That'll be great.
Are you there, Dave?
Yeah, I can take this one, Commissioner 80.
What's that?
This is correct. I can take this one.
Okay. And you're here to get authorization for advertisement for bid for CASA 5, crack and seal, and basket repair.
Yep, that's correct. We're seeking board approval to advertise for bids for CP 2020-03. That's CASA 5 crack seal and mastic repair. CASA 5 is located down in the Craigville area in southern Koochiching County. It's about a 10-mile road, and we are proposing to do crack seal and mastic repair similar to what we've done on the Black River Road, CASA 32, CASA 31 in Big Falls, CASA 10, CASA 29. Every year we typically do a crack seal and mastic repair. This one in particular, the engineer's estimate is $253,000, which is basically on par with what we've done in the past.
I'll move, Mr. Chair. It needs it.
Okay, I've got a motion by Pavlik.
Second.
Second by Scoy. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Dobum?
Aye.
Scoy?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right, thank you, Trent.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody online for public comment through the teleconference? Anybody at all? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Move. Second.
By Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Pavlik. Thank you. And all in favor of Pavlik?
Aye.
McBride?
Aye.
Dobum?
Aye.
Troy?
Aye.
And I am an aye. All right. Thank you, everyone. And now we'll go on to committee of the whole. Discuss City of International Falls Road Maintenance Agreement, proposed revision.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me, everybody? Kevin?
Yep.
Okay, basically at the end of February, we got a letter from Ken Anderson, and he basically it's requesting that we update and revise the maintenance agreement with what we have with the City of International Falls. Currently, there's a maintenance agreement that needs to be basically connected on by July 1st of every year that was done in 1991. That maintenance agreement is significantly out of date. And so, before we went and sat down and started discussing this with the City of International Falls, I'd just like to get the board's feeling on this. I mean, the mileage is wrong in the report. The type of maintenance activities is incorrect. And I think what's happened over the several years is there's just been gentlemen agreements on how this should be done. And none of them documented. So, I think just to give you an idea of what we're thinking of, I mean, if you all seen the agreement, basically, I think it's off by about a factor of 3 miles. I don't know. What are your thoughts? I mean, do you think it's time to update this, or?
Silence must be in concurrence.
Yeah, well, nobody wants to, but they're going to want more money. Everybody knows that.
You believe the city it's going to end up being more money to the county, or we'll have to take on more responsibilities, one way or the other?
Yeah, and I'll let just everybody know. I mean, the funding for this comes straight out of our CASAD state money. So, how much it really costs us in the end is probably nothing more. We do get reimbursed for this. But basically, the first thing I looked at when I looked at this is, is what are they going to be looking at? And I did talk to them, and they did share the costs. If you look in there, it says mileage reimbursements. I mean, if you look at what we're reimbursing them currently, it's about $2,200. But that mileage is wrong. It's so if you factor in the mileage that they're actually maintaining for us and come out to a cost per mile, it's around $1,800. Currently, in 2020, basically the falls is getting compensated about $3,500. I just went to take a comparison on what we're charging Lanier to maintain their streets that they got through the annexation, and we're basically charging them not by mile, but by how much time we put in the bill. And I think this is the 2019 bill, and it comes out to a little over, $3,100. So, when we talk to them, I think we're talking about that rate of $2,200 going up to $3,000 to $3,500 a mile. And I also looked at it, taking the inflation factor, and that would have put the cost at about $4,100 a mile. So I think we need to get the mileage correct on there, whatever we want them to maintain, and then we also need to agree on a reimbursement rate. The other thing I put on there was a couple of maps. Basically, the blue lines is what the city currently maintains for us, and it comes out to about 6.38 miles. The original agreement was based on 4-point-something. I think we all know, Keenan Drive we took over. There's been some other CASAD updates. And currently in the City of International Falls, we're maintaining about 3.67 miles of the CASAD road,
and the city's maintaining about 6.38. What we did do, we did look at was, okay, what's reasonable, or what could we take over? I think, one of the things we don't want to do is take over very congested city streets. I mean, because of parking issues, because of intersections, because of, manholes, curb stops, whatever. So when we looked at this, basically we came up with, okay, what makes, if we were going to have to take over something, what would we take over? And like Keenan Drive is one of those. That's probably the biggest piece. 20th Street, then a little bit of Facade 24. Oh, I think we already do that. In Memorial. So those were the ones that we thought, they make sense. They match up with our plow routes. So if we want to take on additional liability or responsibility, those would make sense. And it would basically get the total mileage down to a little over 4 miles. But what I want to say about that is there's certain activities, maintenance activities, that the city can do better than us. And that's primarily the street sweeping, and also if there's any maintenance that needs to be done on the storm sewer with their sucker truck and jetter, they're in a lot better position to do that too. So in my memo on this, I talk about, what they're best at doing, that we struggle maybe. I mean, I'd just like to get I think that's something we just need to point out.
Dave?
Yeah?
This is Brian. As far as some of these streets and you're talking about, doing some shared maintenance, I'm not in agreement with that. I think if we turn over 6 miles, the city does the 6 miles. We don't want to be, doing certain things and they do certain things, because then it kind of gets all goofed up. I think if we have an agreement, let's have a total agreement with them for the 6 point whatever miles and move forward.
Okay, and that's what we need, because in the end, we will get reimbursed from this. So,
I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know. I think the other commissioners got to weigh in too, but I think I would say go into and do negotiations with the city and come back with an agreement.
Okay,
That sounds reasonable to me. So
It hasn't been all pain and suffering. I mean, the county came up with the $1.1 million to build Keenan Drive. Otherwise, the city was going to have to do it. So, I mean, there's been some trade-offs, put it that way, over the years. And I think that's why the rate was lower. But I tend to agree. We got enough to deal with in the county without taking care of city streets.
and I do think, I think there's a general expectation, I don't know how often the street sweeper, should probably spend, but, they do an excellent job keeping the streets clean. They really do. You see that sweeper going all the time. Okay, and I think that's what, and I will get back to Ken. The reason that, we got this at the end of February, and then all of a sudden the corona hit, and, we just sort of put it back on hold. But, with this date coming up, July 1st, we need to move on it to get it done if we're going to update this agreement.
yeah, I think Dave, what Brian said is a good plan, and if you want to put something together for the next week or two, they'll bring it back to us. And
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Make sure the cost is reasonable.
We'll try, but I think it's going to be on par and hopefully a little less than what MnDOT's. Because I think we do share a lot of stuff. We can mention the shared stuff that we have with them, and I think they'll acknowledge that.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Dave, and this is Brian, and if we were to take over some of these these things, maintenance or plowing within the city of Niagara Falls, this could delay our what we do outside to our county employees. And the city does a great job, and I just don't think we can improve on that. So.
No, I don't either. So, okay.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
That's all I had.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Zen, anything else?
Oh, I got one other thing I think I need to say first. Those trail signs, the bike trail signs,
Yep.
they should be up this week. They were going to start on them today, but they're thinking they're going to get rained out today.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.